Welcome to Candid Dialogue. Our whole goal for this show is to have real and open conversations with entertainers, athletes, entrepreneurs, and other influencers that are just trying to make it happen. During the conversation, we're going to discuss why they chose their path, the ups and downs that they had to go through, the influences that they've had growing up, and also what success looks like to them. I'm your host, William Cooksey, and hopefully you're going to enjoy this next episode of Candid Dialogue. Now let's get candid. Welcome to another episode of Candid Dialogue. I'm your host, William Cooksey, and today we're talking real estate with two local Indianapolis real estate agents. They're going to break it down to us as to how they got into the business, why they got into the business, and how they navigate the ups and downs that come with being in this business. We would like to welcome Ashlee Rush and Josh Martin to this Candid Dialogue. So before we jump into the conversation about real estate, I first want to let you guys introduce yourself. Tell us what you're doing, what you have done, and then we'll get into our conversation about real estate. So we'll start ladies first.
Okay. My name is Ashlee Rush. I am a real estate agent with Real Results Real Estate. So this is my third year. I technically got licensed at the end of 2021, but then I did training in January 2022. So I say I started in 2022.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What about you, Josh?
I started real estate in 2015, towards the end of it. A real estate agent with App Properties. My real estate journey began at age 21, was able to wriggle my way into an internship with a commercial real estate firm called Colliers International. Families in the custom home business, so always kind of had the bug for real estate, homes, construction, development. Was working in the corporate world. Flipped a couple houses with a realtor in Texas, and said, I'm going into business for myself. Came back, got licensed, and been running with it ever since.
Okay, so why real estate? What was the reason why you got into real estate?
For me, so real estate is a service job. I am a service provider. In order to be a service provider, you have to love people. You have to love helping people, which is something I've always had a passion for. Also, my niche, I kind of specialize in relocation clients as well as professional athletes. Just because I've been in that world, I understand that when you do move to another state, no matter what profession you're in, it is can be very hard, stressful to get acclimated, especially when you have, families, little kids. In the professional athlete world, I understand how fast-paced it is. If an athlete gets traded, waived, all the above, they're leaving the next day typically. And so usually it falls on, the spouse, to either put the house up, get to packing. Once they get to that state, you're looking for a daycare provider, a pediatrician, primary caregiver, all that. So that's my passion, just because I've lived in it. I understand it. I get it. So I just like to pay it forward and help the journey be as less stressful as it can be.
Wow, that's interesting. Josh, what about you?
People is definitely a reason why I get into this business, right? Always just like people. Everybody's different, but really looking back at it, wanted to create a certain lifestyle of freedom, financial freedom. Wanted to be my own boss. Working in the corporate industry, wanted to make a positive impact. I think people hear real estate, but the reality is, Ashlee hinted at it, it's a service-based industry. So how can we make a positive impact but be profitable at the same way? So, if I'm being honest with myself, it was that the idea of creating the lifestyle I wanted and building financial freedom in the future.
Wow. Appreciate that answer. And you were talking about what you do. Is that what Nexus is about?
Yes. So Nexus is a relocation brokerage based in Miami. And it's nationwide. So we have an agent that represents definitely most states, few countries. And yeah, we help professional sports entertainers. Obviously, I don't get a broad range of that being in Indiana. Right. But yeah, Nexus is, okay. Yep, that's what Nexus is.
And see, that's something that I never really even thought about, that aspect of it. right? So we watch the athletes, we root for them, and then it goes across ESPN, they're traded. That's when you kick in. So an athlete would contact your company, and then what's the process?
So typically it's not the athlete.
Okay.
Typically it's their agent or their financial advisor or their assistant or their friend. You don't hear the athlete does not want to be,
Right.
contacted. So basically, for instance, working with a client on the Colts, they already had an agent in Indy that they weren't pleased with, and so their friend who had a connection through my broker with Nexus contacted him and said, "Hey, who's your agent in Indiana?" And then that's how I got referred.
Wow, that is an interesting niche. Again, like I said, I don't think I would ever thought about that because I'm probably thinking about it from the player side. Like a man is going to think about it from he got traded, now he's got to go play on another team.
Yeah. And
So
people
then-
don't realize, it's fast. And sometimes, the players find out the same times the public does, So, yeah, it happens quick.
So packing up everything, kids, family, get the family together. Then not only worrying about getting out of here, but finding somewhere else to live there. That's an incredible idea that someone came up with. So when it comes to the real estate, Josh, was there someone that you looked up to that made you say, because you said you was in the corporate world, was there someone that you looked up to that was already doing real estate that made you say, this is what I want to do?
Always have tried to invest back into personal development. There's this cat out of originally California, it's, Darren Hardy, pretty popular guy, but I enrolled in a personal development course, and he's a guy that had built a brokerage out in California, then sold it, lived that life, moved to Miami, was a bodybuilder, but he had gotten into the media business, and he started a magazine called Success Magazine. And all he did was identify the most successful people in the world and go interview them and talk with them about daily habits, how they got where they got, and started to compile their stories. And that's, wanted success out of life. And so he's probably the first person that was nationally recognized that I zoned in on and said, all right, if he's laying out a blueprint, if he's had success with it, where he came from, I can do it. So that kind of got the whole thing rolling.
What about you, Ashley?
So there was really nobody that really inspired me, honestly. Again, just with me having to move many different states and, working with realtors, whether it was to lease or to sell, buy, and then when I seen how much they were making off the transactions, that's just kind of what did it for me. I was a stay-at-home mom. My third was going into preschool, and so I just, wanted to do something for myself. And because real estate has flexible hours, and I have 3 boys with busy schedules, it worked.
So I want you guys to break this down in the most simplest terms as you can for a guy like me, right? So let's say I wanted to get into real estate. What would be the first step that I should take?
Oh, Ashley, you want to take this one?
I would say the first step is to just enroll in the class. You don't know what you don't know, and until you get into the class. I will say, just like with any kind of studies, when you're in the classroom or online versus out in the field or dinner, a transaction, it's totally different. But at least you get to kind of get an idea of what you're getting yourself into. Not really.
No, kind of, but the real experience is going to really accelerate you and get you where you want to be at. But you got to go do, right? And the course is a place to start. Cannot tell you how many people they want to get in real estate and then they spend a year masterminding their plan. It's good to game plan. It's good to have a plan. It's good to have a strategy. You don't need to spend a year doing it. This is going to sound simple, but go do, right? Enroll in the course. I talk with people all the time who say, hey, how do I get going in this business? if you're going to make it in this business, a telltale sign is at anybody who's had success in this business, are you rolling the class, and then are you actively selling, prospecting, working in real estate while you're in the course? And when I see people who are living that way, that person's going to be successful 9 times out of 10. They're not waiting on a license. They're not waiting on, I got to complete the course before I begin. They're actively out there sharing their story. So experience in getting out there and finding a mentor or enrolling in a course is going to get the ball rolling. But if you sit and wait and plan, that's what you're going to be doing most of your life. And I know this is a sports quote that's been out there, but the reason that we've had success is I've failed way more than I've ever succeeded in this business. Yeah. And the reason I've had success is because I failed it faster than other people and learned from it. And so if you've thought about getting into real estate, make the call, get enrolled in the class, go find a mentor, say, hey, I'm in my real estate class. What can I do to be involved for free, or for what can I be involved that's minimal to get me rolling this business? You're going to find somebody that's going to give you an opportunity, and it only takes you showing up to start to get paid in this business. So do.
So
But you do have to have your license to get paid.
Okay.
Yeah, you do have to get your license. But there's a whether you're setting up for maybe an open house, or you're involved in photos or the marketing and their advertising and
Like
the business development, intern work. There's a way to get involved. But are you going to hire somebody who sat around and called you and never followed up? Or are you going to hire that person that went and set up for an open house or set up for a networking event without a license? I'm going to hire that person that took the initiative to do it every time, or give them an opportunity to get involved in my business.
And see, that's why I love having these conversations, because I didn't know you had to take a class. So like, you have to take an actual class. How long is the class?
Yeah, Ashley, you want to take this one?
Is it 90 hours?
I think it's 90 hours. I think it's a 6-week course.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think you can do it online. And there's you can do it in person, you can do it online, and if they clock your hours, but if you're committed to it, you can get it done in a month.
And you both said something really important, and I think that the younger generation misses out on this a lot, because they want to do something and get paid for it right now. But listening to you both, you're probably going to have to do some free work to get to where you're trying to go, because like Josh, you said, okay, you got your class. You got 90 hours that you have to do in this class and you have to pass. But then there's also other things you can be doing to better suit you to, once you pass, to become a realtor. So is that what you're saying, is that, okay, take your class, but then find someone that can mentor you to help you get to where you're trying to go faster?
Yeah, absolutely. Mentorship, and I don't know if you have a mentor or not, but mentorship can save you years. Got into the business and said, I'm going to go find a mentor, and I'm going to spend 2 years with them. Now I made it a year and 3/4 of a year, and then it was time. I felt like it was time for me to go. Right. So there's no set clock to it. But if you're out there on your own, if you can connect with or get involved in somebody that's established in this business, you're going to get what you get out of it. And sometimes that opportunity is taking the jobs people don't want to do. But think to yourself, if I sat and planned for a year, what would I have accomplished? I'd have a plan that I'd have to put in action. But if I got up and said, I'm going to go live in this space and go take on the jobs that other people don't want to do, or get involved with a real estate group and help with the nitty-gritty intern work, a year from now, you're going to be getting paid in real estate. And that person that was sitting there planning is going to have a big fat zero in terms of what they brought in for the year.
I mean, you can still plan while you do. And even I think something that I did too was I went to open houses just to be around, the agents and seeing how they intertwined with, customers that came through the door and the verbiage that they used. And I mean, anybody can do that.
Absolutely.
Just act like you're interested in
And
the
how
house.
much time did that save you picking up the vernacular and how they're operating? And then the real estate is such a neat business because there's no right, hey, you have to do it this way.
Yeah, everybody does it their own way.
Absolutely. Everybody does it their own way, and everybody's got to put their own spin on it. And so what better way to form your own style than to go learn what people are doing that are already successful and saying, all right, well, if it was me, I'd change this, this, and this. And then that's really how people break through. So that's a great example.
And I would say too, as far as the mentor, just your question of what are the steps. So after you get your, or after you take the course and you pass the test, then you get licensed. You're not technically licensed until you find a brokerage that you want to hold your license. And when I was searching for brokerages, finding a mentor in my managing brokers for me was important, because if they're a good managing broker, they should kind of act like your mentor. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, they hold you accountable, you know, motivate you.
Yep, without a doubt. I've heard this before. Go take the job where you've got a good boss, right? If you're out there in the job market or you're job hunting, go with the job where you've got a good connection with the boss, because they're going to be responsible for some of your happiness, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, you're kind of interviewing your brokerage just as much as they're interviewing you, because this is your business, you know. So it's kind of like, okay, if I'm, you know, bringing in this, what are the training that are you going to offer? You know, what are the free education courses? So it's kind of like you're interviewing them as well.
And that's hard to find in this business. There's a lot of people that'll put you to work, but you know, really taking the time to go explore your options and get a sample size of who's out there and what's the right fit for you. People's management style or the way they operate is all going to be different. So what's right for Ashlee may not be right for me, and vice versa.
Yeah. So we hear real estate, right? To a person who's not involved in it, it's, okay, I sold a house. But it's way more than that. So can you break down from from both of your perspectives, what does a day look like, a week or month? Can you break down what your section of real estate, if that's even the correct term, because you both do something different, but what is it that you do, and what would a person have to be prepared to do to get into this business?
The ladies first on this.
Okay. Well, what can you do to be prepared? My biggest thing is faith. You have to have faith in this business. It's so up and down. Yes, the money is good when you have clients and you have a pipeline, but when you don't, I mean, there is no money. So, you know, you have to have faith when, you know, during slower times, that the work, you know, this is definitely a field that the work you put in is going to be what you get in return. And so just like Josh was saying, you know, when you're first starting out, you know, you have to put in the work. You have to, I mean, again, you're building your foundation, your business. And I think too, you know, it's not just about selling homes and finding somebody to buy your home. It's, you know, sometimes we're a counselor. Sometimes, you know, we're talking people off the ledge. It's a very emotional process. You know, these are people's homes. This is the biggest transaction most will make in their lifetime. So, you know, it's a very sensitive journey. So it's definitely a lot more than just helping someone, you know.
So sometimes I feel like a guidance counselor.
Oh, definitely. Guidance counselor, marriage counselor.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth? In terms of section of real estate and what we're involved in, it's hard for me to say, hey, this is my typical day in real estate. I think one of the appealing components of the industry is how different each day and how different each week can be. I think looking at an annual calendar, you know, I know certain times a year we're going to be in December, we're in our planning phase. What are we going to be doing the next year to make sure we service our clients to the best of our ability? I know in the springtime, it's how are we getting before spring, right? That early February, March. What are we doing to connect with our clients and put our brand out there, bring awareness to the services that we provide? I know in the summertime, we're going to be out showing homes, casing property, getting prepared to list property. And then in the fall, you got the school rush, you got those people that waited from the spring market. So it's different for all people, but I know about 70% of my revenue is going to be from April till about July, beginning of August. And that's just how we've structured our business. But every day is different, and that's how we've built our business. But I do know people who can say, hey, every Tuesday I'm on the phones prospecting.
Yeah.
Every Friday I'm following up with my clients that I've listed property with. So I think it's important to build time blocks and have some consistency. Otherwise, you're really out there running around with like a dog with your head out the window. So we try to, each week try to say, hey, we're going to sit down for an hour and a half on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays and have specific elements of our business that we're focusing on.
So do you say in your business it's important to set realistic goals?
Oh, you have to. Yeah, you have to set realistic goals. But again, it's real estate is so circumstantial. I mean, when you say goals, it's definitely important to what I do is I have an Excel spreadsheet for the different quarters, and I kind of use them to compare to again, this is only my third year, but just to my previous years so I can see, where I need to work harder and prepare and plan more for the following months and quarters.
Hey, we differ on this just a tad bit. You have always been stereotypically, I'm going to have audacious goals that probably aren't attainable, but shoot for the stars, and that's always worked for me. But being able to have a benchmark where I can sit down at after quarter one and say, hey, we're either putting in the work or we're not. But it is important to have goals.
Yeah.
If you don't have goals, if you don't know where you're going, how are you supposed to get there?
And see, that's why I asked that question is because what works for you may not work for her and vice versa. And so when the people are watching it, there's going to be people that say, I'm shooting for the stars. And then you got some more people that's going to be a little bit more conservative, say, well, I'm just going to shoot here. Then once I get there, I'm going to go to the next level.
Shoot for the stars.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not going to tell you what number I put on my actual projection. But you have to have high hopes in this field. Yeah.
And you mentioned faith. So I'm a sports guy, so I equate everything to sports. You have to be competitive in this space.
Yeah, definitely.
So are you a natural competitor when it comes to real estate?
I would say more so I'm a problem solver.
Okay.
And that puts you in a competitive field with realtors. I'm going to try to get the best outcome for my client, whether I'm on the selling or buying side, but I also I'm realistic with my client. For instance, if I am listing a home and they want to put it at a price that I just know we're going to be sitting, I have to be real with them and let them know, you have to be fair in this. A buyer is coming. You have to make your home a good investment for, in order for a buyer to want to come and put in an offer. Wait, say that about faith. What was this? With faith?
You said you have to have faith.
Well, you have to have faith because, again, this, in real estate, there's no technically guaranteed income.
No, zero.
It's, you're throwing yourselves out to the wolves and just hoping that, business comes. So you have to have faith. You have to keep in mind your whys. You have to keep going. A lot of realtors are weeded out because, especially in this economy, we need consistent income. And again, you are sometimes spending money on marketing and different things like that, without making anything first. So, yeah, for me, faith is a big one. Faith is everything in my life, but for my career, definitely.
What about you?
Faith is definitely something you got to have in this business. There is, I've heard you say it a couple times. I know realtors that have been in the business a year, 2 years, 3 years that are more successful than people that have been in the business for 10 or 15 years. So although experience is important, I'm not sure it's the most important variable in this industry. If you're empathetic, if you're driven, if you're service orientated and you're a go-getter, you're going to have success quickly in this business. But make no mistake about it, if you're doing nothing, nobody's going to be there to wake you up out of bed and say, "Hey, we got practice or we got a game today." You're paid. Your income will be zero if you don't do anything. And manifesting faith, that's where goals come in. You've got to have it, because as many highs as there are in this business, there are a lot of lows. It really goes. It really goes like this. And I think a lot of people get weeded out of this industry because they can't handle. Man, I spent 2 months trying to find this person the perfect home. I literally poured my heart and soul into it, and the deal didn't go through. There was a major foundation issue financially. They were struck with a life-altering event. That can happen in this business, but it goes towards having faith and giving your best to people and treating people right.
And knowing that what didn't work out in one transaction, if you gave your all, it'll come back around.
Oh, without a doubt, those are good. Those are the good days.
Yeah.
So you talked about the highs and the lows, and that's one thing that we always like to discuss on the episode. Is everyone wants to know what the highs are, the successes. But what are some of the downs that you can go through or that you personally went through in this space?
I would say for me so far, when you first get into it, you think, oh, I'm a realtor. All my friends and family are going to use me.
Yes.
And then they don't. And you're like, what?
Wait, you haven't been doing this for that much time. Why would we hire you?
And so I feel like, it's kind of a life lesson in general. You can't take it personal. Again, this is business. It is one of the biggest transactions people make in their life, and they're going to do what's best for them. And so, I've had to check myself a couple times and remind myself that, and at the end of the day, if they chose someone else, then I was not the agent for them to begin with. They were not my client. It's for me is for me, and it wasn't meant to be. So I wish them well. I still offer my assistance, in any way I can, because, you always want a referral. You want something out of it. But, you just have to, you can't take it personal.
It is same kind of narrative in regards to, hey, I have put months and there's been situations where I've worked with somebody for a year or two before they found a place. And so spending and also real estate can be a lonely business. And I think when you first get going, if you don't have surrounding support, I think you're looking around going, well, what do I do? Who's in my corner rooting for me? I've put in time and effort, and you've really got to find it in yourself and be true to yourself and why you got in the business and what's the reason, so that there can be some low days there. I think it's a very competitive business, so have had experiences where, hey, you really put, nobody really, unless you've got a team that's on a payroll. A lot of agents are looking for mentorship, but a lot of them want to get your mentorship and then move on to the next thing. And part of my learning was to say, hey, maybe my place in real estate is not to have somebody be with me for 20 years, but to help them achieve their goals, just like I'm helping a buyer, seller, a builder, a developer achieve their goals. So that was a lesson that, I had to learn early on, as people are going to have different goals, and giving back and helping develop agents or providing mentorship doesn't mean they're going to be with you for 20 years. They want to excel. They want to keep growing just like you do. But when you put time and effort into somebody's professional development, it definitely, especially the first one, it stings. So, low wise, again, spending time on deals, there's some transactions where they're going to be under contract for a year. And if something happens, you can put months and a lot of man hours into something that they decide to go a different way. And you got to realize, hey, it's not personal. It's just part of the business.
How do you do that? Not take it personal? Because, people say it's not personal, it's just business. And that used to make me mad, because I'm thinking, my business is personal. This is how I take care of my family. So if you're messing with my business, I take that personal. But then what you both are saying is that you've got to get out of that, because you're going to be mad all the time. So How?
Again, you just
Teach
have to
me.
tell yourself, again, my motto is there's no such thing as a missed opportunity. So if it was for me, it would have been for me. There's transactions that I thought I was missing out on. And then they would call me like in a panic because their current realtor or they were just in a messed up situation. And I couldn't really help because I was not their realtor. And when I hang up the phone, I'm like, thank you, God. Like you were, that was protection. Rejection is protection and redirection. So I just like it always works out the way that it should.
Without a doubt, that goes back to that faith of having, hey, I'm here providing a service, and I'm doing the best that I'm capable of doing, and if that doesn't work for them, they weren't meant to be in my life to begin with.
You weren't meant to be their agent.
Now, I will say the fun part about this business is you get to choose who you work with. So as the years have gone by, I think you learn to recognize, is this person going to commit to me like I'm committing to them? Are they going to respect me as a person, as a professional, or are they going to respect my time? And if somebody's not doing that, I've learned to just say, hey, we're not a great fit. There's another agent out there for you. Yeah. So, and that's all right, because it really does come for full circle. I know statistically it hasn't worked out probably 100% of the time, but usually when somebody that I'm working with leaves my life, another opportunity arises. I found that to be consistent.
So would you agree that every deal, whether it goes good or bad, you learn something from it?
Oh, you learn something. Every transaction is different. Every client is different. Every personality is different. Yeah, I learned. I mean, you should be learning something new with every transaction.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd say that's accurate. Every opportunity is a lesson. And as soon as you think that, I mean, there'll be some years or a stretch of months where I'm like, I'm just on, right? Every interaction I'm having is great. Feel like I'm really locked in on what the client that I'm serving or working with is looking for. There'll be some months where, hey, every other house I show, we're going under contract. Every other property I look at is panning out. And then as soon as I get to that point where I'm like, oh man, I know exactly what I'm doing, it's like something happens.
You get humbled real quick.
It hits that reset button hits. So.
But I honestly appreciate those moments because, I mean, you're always getting asked questions, and a lot of the times you're not going to know, and it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'll get back with you when I find the answer.
And that's one thing that I think about any entrepreneur journey. You got to take the good with the bad, and you got to be willing to learn from the good from the bad. Yeah. But a lot of people don't want the bad. But I've learned a lot of lessons from some of the worst things that I've had to go through. Because now I'm sitting at home. I might be ready to start crying. I feel like, man, life is over with. But then I realized, hey, I need to realize or figure out why I'm in this position so I never am in this position again. So when it comes to real estate, it sounds like it's not just about crunching numbers and homes. You really need to be a people person as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you have to be a people person.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to be a connector. Absolutely. The who else are you working for, right? You're going to deal with people in every day and every element of the business. And think about this: no matter what you do in life, even if you're cleaning toilets, if you become the best at cleaning toilets, you're going to have. It may not be glamorous. It may not be shiny, but you're going to have success and you're going to make money and you're going to excel at that. And so if you're not having success in real estate or you don't know where to begin at, there is always a way to be successful. You just have to problem solve through it and try something new, figure it out, adjust your strategy. There's a way for you to be successful.
Yeah. And when you problem solve, just to be a people person, you're not just talking to the client during a transaction. You're talking to the client. You're talking to the other agent on the other side. You're talking to the inspector, appraiser, the lender. I mean, so yeah, it's many working parts to it. It's not just agent-client relationship. You have relationship with several service providers.
Yeah. So many businesses feed off the real estate industry. And you mentioned title, appraiser, surveyor, warranty rep, mortgage lender. You've got your operations, your transaction coordinators, inspectors. You've got any construction vendors that are making repairs. All of these material providers, all of these industries feed off real estate. And so if you're involved in it, those people, they want to know you. They want to be your friend, right? And so if you're open to, I spend half my time not connecting just with clients, buyers, sellers, builders, but vendor reps. And if you're really good, you've got a strong vendor, because all those people are providing service to your clients. They're going to impact the experience. And so if you get really good, you surround yourself with people who are really good at what they do, and then it's clockwork, right? Then you're all in unison. But you're talking to 20 people every transaction.
It takes a lot to get to the closing table. To have an offer accepted is the first step.
That's where the journey begins.
Yeah, that's where it begins. But yeah, there's a lot of things in between that have to pan out and work for it to happen.
So you mentioned the right people around you. How do you find the right people? Is it a trial and error type of situation? Because no one person does anything by themselves. You really have to have a good team. So if someone's watching, what would be your suggestion when it comes to, in real estate, finding the right team?
Well, I do a lot of networking events. When I find a service provider that I like, and I don't just have one, I have a couple, just because, again, you're working with people with different personalities. So, if I have somebody who is an analyzer for the inspection report, and they need to know, page 1 to page 30, what they need, what's going on in this home, I'm not going to put them with an inspector that's going to be very vague. I'm going to put them with an inspector I know who doesn't mind you coming to the home, and he's going to explain, in detail what's going on with the home. So again, it's part of that being the people person, knowing personalities and how they're going to work with, different people. Because again, this is an emotional journey. So, I've worked with friends who have just been friends, but when they become a client, it's a whole different, it's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
So you just have to trust your judgment in who's, with lenders, some financial circumstances may work with this lender when some, may work with a different lender. So.
Trial and error on my end for sure. Some of that has been, you mentioned kind of personalities and pairing up. Definitely like to have 2 to 4 vendor reps that have different personalities teed up. Had a buddy who was a defensive tackle at Eastern Illinois. Played with Jimmy Garoppolo. He loves to bring that up. But I connected him with a buddy of mine who's in the mortgage business, who's really good at what he does, but personality-wise, I could tell he was like, I don't know if that clicks. Had a gal ready to go. One conversation, I love her. She's great. I can tell she's going to be on it. So definitely trial and error and finding different personalities that ensure your client's going to have a positive experience, and then go meet with as many people as these people as possible. Especially at the beginning, go work with people that you like. Go work with people that you click with, and these, a lot of these people, their businesses are running off of your transaction, and so they want to grab a coffee with you. They want to take you out to lunch. They want to get to know you. Yeah. Go. This sounds absurd, but go have 20 lunches with 20 different mortgage
And when you
pros.
start, you'll get those phone calls. The phone calls will be flooding in with emails with lenders, different service vendors who want to meet with you and have coffee just to, again, networking. So that comes organically, really.
And you bring that up. They've got like the automated call service is a thing now. Hey, I'm so and so. I've been hired by Sunny Moon Real Estate Agent. He'd love to meet with you. Well, if he would love to meet with me, why didn't he just call me himself? Right. I want to work. And some people probably have formed great relationships, and those people can be really good at what they do. And so that goes back to finding your style. and I know I want to work with somebody that's gonna pick up the phone and
Right.
call.
Yeah.
So that's that's where I'm coming from.
So what does success look like for you individually?
Oh man, that's success is one of those things that's I think a continuous journey. Every time I think I've found success, there's always more to be had. I think having positive experiences, helping people reach their goals is success, and then building a book of business that provides financial freedom, which is a loaded word, but it really is attainable in this business. And then being able to make a schedule that works for you and your family. And that's what success has been to me. It's some people hear real estate and they see dollar signs, but it's a good feeling when you get that family into their first home that's got a couple kids that's always rented, or work with somebody that's never thought home ownership was plausible, or somebody's selling their second house and you get to not literally cut them a check, but they walk out of there with a six-figure check. And it's about a conversation you might have had years ago. That's a good, it's hard to walk out the door and not feel good. So that's really those three things are success for me.
What about you, Ashley?
Yeah, I think success is painted different for everyone. I definitely can agree with everything Josh said. And I feel like if you are doing your job the correct way and with integrity and honesty and getting your client to the closing table, knowing that they're sitting there both confident and comfortable with the decision that they made and the outcome of the transaction, then my job is done. And again, if you do it correctly, the business is going to keep flowing to you. So for me, yeah, it's just that rewarding feeling. I mean, and for me, sometimes the most difficult transactions do feel the most rewarding when they're done. And also, for me too, a client is always a client. So if I can still have the relationship after the transaction, that shows too that I did my job correctly, and that's success for me as well.
And it's what's so interesting about this question, because I ask it on every episode. And I think I assumed that success for everyone was money, because that's not what's successful to me. But what has surprised me is that everyone said the same thing. Money that's why we work.
Right.
But the real reward comes from helping other people. And that's why I want people, if they watch these episodes, to understand, especially younger people, money doesn't equate to success and happiness.
Right.
Because if you get money, it comes and it goes. But that feeling that you give to someone else, like you said, you get someone in that home and you see them walk in and you see how happy they are. They may be crying and hugging. You're never going to forget that feeling.
Yep.
But the money that you make, you're probably going to spend that money. So that's why it's so interesting. It's like, man, so success, like you said, is relative to the person.
Absolutely. And have known people who've made a lot of money, have made really, really good money in this business. At a certain point, I can say it hasn't made me a happier person. Those relationships that I've formed, the success of running into people or talking with people years from now about, their family's in a good situation, or they raised their kids in that home, or they took that next step in life that they either weren't familiar with or didn't think was plausible.
They're scared. Yeah.
Correct. That's the rewarding part about it. Now the money's nice.
Oh, we need that.
That's yeah. Don't get me wrong. The money is reward, but if you've got, and again, people say this all the time, the money's going to come. If you go operate like what we're talking about, and be intentional about a positive experience and helping people complete their goals and be service orientated, it may be a year, it may be 5 years, but it's gonna come. And I don't know too many people where they just got into real estate and all of a sudden they started making money and that made them happy, right? And I think the agents that have dollar signs in their eyes, people can tell. People can tell when I talk with people, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just about the money. There's some of the most miserable people, miserable interactions that I have in this industry because that's what they're focused on, and they end up working for people where it's all about the dollars and cents. And so again, you go back to that faith and having goals and kind of manifesting what is it about this business that I want besides money that's going to provide either lifestyle or flexibility or the reward of helping others, or maybe I'm very service orientated and that's fulfilling, other than money that's going to make me happy. Because I really, whatever you do, I think you need something else besides money.
So would you say integrity was important in your business?
No, without
number
a
one.
doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
You'll be out of business real quick if you're not going to have integrity and treat people right. You won't make any. Your money will run dry pretty quick. So.
And I think it's important that that's said because I think that is always sometimes unfortunately down at the bottom of a person's goals that they want to be known as. I want to be known as a boss. I want to be known as a person that has integrity.
Yeah.
Because I want you to feel comfortable being around me. And that's one thing like with the guys around me as we're building out our businesses, we always say, when I'm laying in bed at night, I don't want to have to be worried about you taking advantage of me. And I don't want you to be worried about whether I'm taking advantage of you or not. So in your business, reputation and integrity, you would say that's at the top of the list?
Absolutely. I mean, and I work with a lot of investor clients, and it makes my blood boil when I have a client come to me who's wanting to sell a property that they have invested in, because once I see the property and get in it and see that it has major foundation issues and all the windows need replaced and it just wasn't a good investment. I'm like, what realtor told you that this was a good investment? Like it just, and again, just because, they want the money. And yeah, that.
No, see that all the time. And it's like, it's somebody who's, I've got an investor buying 100 homes and they're not even looking at the place. Yeah. And I'm going, well, what do you think's going to happen a year from now when they figure out what you're telling them is bogus? And they're going to be calling you or somebody worse. So the reality is longevity should be a priority in this business. And Rome didn't get built in a year. It's doing the right thing. It's doing your best day after day. Sometimes you got to let deals go. Sometimes you got to let clients go.
All money ain't good money.
No.
If it's a transaction that's going to keep you up at night, then it's not. It's not worth it.
No, and want to be surrounded by people that have integrity and have values and I want to work with people that prioritize those things as important, that's important traits in their life. And you could have all the money in the world, but if you don't have those things, I don't see it.
And again, when
finding
finding the right other service providers for your client, you have like trial and error. You have to know that they have that same integrity. For lenders, if I'm going to refer a lender to a client, I have to know that you're going to be communicative, you're going to be aggressive, you are going to be transparent. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver to clients. I don't want there to be any surprises. I want it to be as smooth as I can control as possible. So, yeah, I would say integrity is definitely number one in this business.
And I'm glad we had this conversation because sometimes I feel like I'm the only one to feel that way. Because I remember a guy, he told me, he said, money over everything. I stopped talking to him. Because money over everything means you might kill me for this money. Like
It's hard, man. It's hard.
Well, in this world,
Yeah. And you look at Instagram and social media and the internet, and that's what people are talking about. Is, hey, I'm going to get to the money. I'm going to do what it takes to get to the money. I'm going to get in this business because of the money. And yes, you can make a living, but what's going to be the consequence of that? And so if you're an entrepreneur, thinking it goes back to values and who you are as a person, what you stand for, and if you operate that way, success will come. The money will come. I don't know too many businesses where you're going to instantaneously tomorrow get in it and just be an expert or make good money. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. but it's very attainable.
So in this business, and it's a question for you both, what do you do to separate yourself from your peers or your competitors that you're going against?
For me, so I definitely don't try to look at what other agents are doing or how they're running their business. Because again, I feel like, Josh's clients are his clients. My clients are my clients, but I go above and beyond for my clients. I treat each one like I would want my loved ones to be treated. Again, I'm very communicative, transparent. If they, again, if I'm helping a professional athlete family and the husband left yesterday and they need help cleaning their house for photographs, I'm there. I may not get paid for it, but I understand they need a clean house for my photography to, be successful. So that's what I'm doing. If I have one time I had a client who was moving from Michigan for a job relocation to Lilly, and because of his morals and values and his religion, he could only eat out of certain Tupperware. And so he didn't want to fly back and forth. So he asked me, could I keep his Tupperware in my garage for him when he, would have to go back to Michigan. And, I do little things like that just because, that you have to be top of mind. There's hundreds of realtors out here. But I want to be, looked at more as like a friend, more than they're just agent. Again, I stick with my clients post-closing. We're still having conversations. I'm still asking about their children, so on and so forth. So it's about relationship building, not just for the money, not just to get to the transaction, but again, like Josh said, longevity.
Absolutely. Intentionality's a good word. Thinking being intentional about my interactions, intentional about building the relationships, and know that I am a real estate agent. This is what I do for a living, but we don't have to talk shop every time. I'm not just real estate, right? So, intentionally, anybody that I've sold a home for, listed and sold, we've done this thing where we will hand paint a portrait of the house on a Christmas ornament on both sides. And so, again, those intentional little things that show you care, they're going to look at that and go, who the heck thinks of this? Like you went out of your way to figure out how to hand paint an ornament. That, and it hangs up on the Christmas tree every year, so they get a reminder, right? But it is every time I have a friend who has a kid, I go out and get a personalized burp cloth and onesie for them, and then monogram their initials on there. People remember things like that, and not only that is you make a lot of friends in this business. Can't tell you how many clients have turned into lifetime friends. And so standing out, online or marketing wise is different from, building intentional relationships. So I've tried to focus on the intentionality of saying Josh is a real person. Josh, if you're into fishing and we're working in real estate, and sometimes if we're not, not working in real estate, I'm going to go get you, I'm going to send you a new tackle reel. So finding out really learning about people, who they are, what makes them tick, because that's the people I enjoy working with, who actually know me, and not just, this is a real estate agent. No, that's Josh. He's into this, and this. So try to treat people that way and intentionally build relationships that way.
So every show we close it out because I'm a firm believer that no one does anything by themselves. So this is a segment to where we ask you, who would you like to give flowers to say thank you for helping you get to this point?
Can I say my wife?
Absolutely. Chris she's a wonderful woman.
She is. She's a patient woman, yeah.
I would say my clients. My first couple years, I've been very blessed, and it is because I have had my sphere of people who have trusted me. And I understand, because they could have went with anyone. So yeah, I just like to give my clients the flowers for trusting to get the job done.
I'd say my wife for sure, because like any entrepreneur.
I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
No, that's totally fine.
I was done at your wife.
I should be done, yeah. But it does take sacrifice, right? It takes a shared common goal, and there are if you're an entrepreneur, especially at the beginning, you are going to work. And so if you have people in your life where you're building a life together, kids, aunt, uncle, partner, grandma, grandpa, whomever, they've got to have that shared vision to have a life with you. Mm-hmm. So shout out to Kristen. You're my world and a reason for a lot of my success. And then I had a mentor, Drew Schrader. Guy saved me years of learning lessons, right? And it was a mentor that had similar values, recognized it. And when I first met him, I didn't know what it was, but I knew I wanted to spend time around this person. Mm. And ultimately, it was because he had similar values. And yes, he was successful in this business, but he was somebody that if I called, he'd pick up the phone and talk through an issue or pitch an idea. Mm-hmm. So those are the two people I'd like to give flowers to.
No, I appreciate that. And it was one more question. We talked about the downs. Were there ever any moments where you wanted to quit?
Not for me.
There's been days I've wanted to quit for sure, and not seriously, but days where I'm going, oh my gosh, why?
Yeah, I will say that there are days that I'm like, why did I choose this again?
What am I doing?
But isn't there days like that?
So it's never really made me want to quit. And you just got to laugh, honestly.
Yeah, you've got to laugh and say this is, good and bad happens in life, and the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But it goes back to manifest. It goes back to those goals. Make mm-hmm. those goals and don't let anybody stand in your way. Because you're going to have people that tell you you're doing the wrong thing. You're going to have days where you feel like success is unattainable. I can tell you that I had almost nothing when I got started in this business, and live a really nice life. And part of it's been because of perseverance and not giving up on those days.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
How do you do that? And I think that's an important question and answer from you guys, because every entrepreneur has those days. Mm-hmm. I have them. It's like, I think it's time to do something else, or man, I messed this up. But I know what motivates and fuels me to get up the next day to keep going. What motivates and fuels you both to get up? Like you said, we all know we're going to be on that ride. Yeah. We're going to have those days where it's like, man, what am I doing? What gets you through those days?
For me, I think you just have to remember why you started in the first place. Remembering your whys. My whys are my 3 boys. I love this job because it does offer me the flexibility to where I can be in the basketball gym, watching them do what they love as well. And so, I just think, again, you have to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. You're going to have bad days, but like Josh said, what didn't work out for something that you put your work into, it's going to come back for full circle. And that's just a part of, again, faith. Faith is my answer for most things. So you just have to trust.
Faith is a good answer. Yeah, for sure. Thinking what personally like to go run, an ex-athlete. I think those days where you're on the brink of quitting, I think go finding what puts you in your happy place, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's exercise, maybe that's going playing cards, whatever you're into. But after whatever you need to do to clear your head, and then I think you go back to the faith of what's your why. Mm-hmm. And I always find myself thinking, what's the alternative if I quit? Failure, right? Success is a driving force. And if you quit or you don't stop, or you stop tomorrow, this is better than failure. This is better than nothing. This is better than not trying. Mm. And the great part about this business is every day there's a new possibility. I could lose a deal. It could be the end of the world. Tomorrow the sun's going to rise, and there's going to be other opportunities. Mm-hmm. And that's a promising thought, man. Hope is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, I really appreciate you both for coming out this evening.
Thank you.
Appreciate the invite.
Wonderful conversation. And I think that people who are trying to be in real estate, but I think people who are also just trying to be an entrepreneur are going to be able to benefit from this type of conversation, because no matter what business you're in, business foundations is all the same. You got to have a why. You got to know what you want to achieve. You got to be a little crazy to think that I'm going to be able to do something that thousands or millions of people have failed at, and say I'm still going to be able to do it. You got to be able to have that perseverance that you mentioned to do it. So I really appreciate you both, and you've been a great example. And a lot of the things that you said, somebody's going to benefit from it. So that's why we do this show.
Love it, man. Glad to hear it. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Hope, mate, we do it again, come back, a couple years, a couple months, whatever it is. We just come back, talk about more success, more things that you got going on. And but again, we appreciate you guys coming on. Thank you for watching this episode of Candid Dialogue.